In this series of videos, we're going to create this editorial animation using Maya and Adobe After Effects. In Maya, we'll begin by creating a dollar sign. Holding down the space bar, I'll go to Create and Type. In the attribute editor over on the right, I'll click on Type 1, and in here I'll change the font to Impact, and then where it says 3D Type, I'll select that, holding down the Shift, and I'll hit the dollar sign. I'll hit W on the keyboard, center the pivot, freeze the transforms. Holding down X, I'll snap it to the middle of the grid. And then I'm going to go to an orthographic view where I'm looking straight on the dollar bill. And I'll create a cylinder here that will be the coin shape. I'll go to the attributes for the coin shape in the channel box, and I'll click on inputs, and I'm just going to round this off a bit by increasing the subdivision axis right here from 20 to 40. That'll make it a little rounder. I'm going to go to the orthographic view where I'm looking at the coin and the dollar bill, and I'll place the coin. Holding down X, I'll snap it to the X Y grid, and in my top view I'll go and I'll grab the coin. I'll just pull it out away from the dollar sign. Now I'm going to move the pivot of the coin from this point to the center of the grid where the dollar bill is. I'll hit 4 on the keyboard and I'll hold down D, and I'll start to drag, and I'll put it right at the center of the grid where the dollar bill is. So essentially, if I was to go into my perspective view now and get my rotation tool and give it a spin, it'll spin with its axis where the dollar bill is. I'll save that. And then what I'll do is I'll create the UV map. I'll marquee select both of those elements, and I'll right click and I'll assign a new material to it, and it'll be the Arnold AI standard surface. And I'll go ahead and name it, and I'll make sure I've selected those elements and I've frozen the transform and delete the history. So we'll take each element one at a time, and we'll UV map, and I'll select the dollar bill, and we'll use UV automatic. I'll right click and return to my object mode, and then I'll go to my UV editor. And in my editor, I'll marquee select all the UV shells. I'll move them off to the right. Returning to my object mode, I'll select the coin, and I'll use automatic for that as well. I'll choose the UV shells, and I'll move those off to the left. Now I'll go to my object mode and I'll marquee select those two elements, and now I'm going to gather them in here so that I can make my UV PNG to go into Photoshop. So in this instance, I want to maximize the scale of that box, so I'll go to the dollar bill first. I'll go to UV shell. I'll select this shell, and I'll go to modify, and I'll go to flip, and I'll just stack that on top of that. I'll hit F on the keyboard, and now I'm going to go to modify, and I'll go to rotate, and I'll rotate it one more time, and now I can line them up pretty precisely. All these other elements are the sides of the coin, and they're just going to be one dark value. We'll put a texture on the front and back, but the edge will have a solid color. So what we need to do really with these is start to stack all these shells, and then when we return, we'll do the coin. I've placed the dollar UV maps over on the right hand side. Now I am going to move the coins over. The coin is going to go on both sides, so they'll have to be separate. I can't stack those two. I'll start to manipulate these, and then I'll put them in here, and I'll start to scale them down. Now the coin is going to be more prominent at the edges. That should work pretty well though. So I'll go ahead and maximize the scale of this a bit more, and then right-clicking in my viewport back to my object mode, I'll marquee select the geometry, and I'll go to image, UV snapshot, and I'll generate my UV map that will be opened in Photoshop. I'm using the size of 2048. It's a PNG, and the edge color is black. I'll just save that in the appropriate spot, and then when we come back, we'll actually do the animation, and then we'll do the texturing afterwards. I need to generate a number of other coins that will create a circle shape around our dollar sign. So I'm going to go to my top view. I'll select my coin, and I'll go to my channel box, freezing the transform and deleting the history. I'll hit W, and I'll hit Command D to duplicate. Now I'm going to hit E. I'm going to rotate that out to the right so that there is a bit of space between these two coins I have now. Over in the channel box, I'm going to copy the rotate Y number because we're going to put this into duplicate special, and then we can just generate as many as we want with the same distance. So with that copied, now I'll go to Edit, Duplicate Special, Attributes, I'll reset, and then for rotate Y, I'll put that number in. So now when I hit apply, I'm going to get another coin with the same distance between it and the previous one. I'm going to zoom back in my viewport a little bit so I can see everything, and then I'll just hit G on the keyboard, I'll click on apply, and I'll just put them around the circumference that we need for this. And then I'm just going to go in and tweak it a little bit more here so the distance isn't quite as radical here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix the spacing on this last one. Back in my perspective viewport, I have all the elements I need now, and I'll begin the animation process.